Hey again, everyone. Welcome into the It's Official podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk. And no, we did not coordinate wearing the forest green today. Jeff says it's our Turf Pick 3 outfit. So I like that. Jeff, we're never going to get accused of anything fashion-wise, but today we did match up.
Well, I have a very scientific way of picking out my shirts for this show. I reach into the closet, and whatever I grab, that's what I wear. It just happened to be green, but you've got one green too. So I think maybe you had your own reasons. But
it's wishful thinking. It snowed here for a couple days, not like it did in Kentucky, though. Bless the people in Kentucky who are digging out of some serious snow this weekend. It has taken a toll on the racing schedule a bit. Turfway has canceled Wednesday and Thursday racing. Give you a little news at the top of the show here. So no Turfway racing Wednesday and Thursday. They have added Sunday racing at Turfway this week, though, so that's typically not on the schedule. So keep an eye on the weather throughout the next several months here, but we're in that time of year. Jeff, no reason to worry out where you are in Southern California. And on the Triple Crown Trail last week, we had no worries. We got all 5 of the big stakes races in. I know it's early. It was the first weekend in January to call these Triple Crown prep races. Some are, some aren't to more degree. But when you get the new 2-year-olds turn 3 and we get a big day where they're all come together, it did add for a bit of excitement at the beginning of the year. I mean, from Turfway to Oaklawn to the California to New York. I mean, we had it everywhere and down in Florida. And we're going to get to some of those races here on the program. But we're going to start things off with our new first topic. We began this last week on the show. It's Jeff's Goosebump Award. Who gave him the goosebumps? Who got you excited on the racetrack last week? Jeff, the envelope, please. I'll hand it to you. Who gets the award this week?
I was pretty confident that the Goosebump Award this week would be the winner of the San Vicente. I didn't know which one it would be.
Right.
But I thought whoever won that race would have to rise to the occasion. And as it was, Barnes stepped forward immensely off his somewhat green, bit troubled maiden win. Life and Death, didn't change leads, did a lot of things long in his maiden win at Churchill. And everything that he had done wrong there, he did right in this race.
Right.
So he, between his first and second race, not only did he win the race by 5.5 lengths and beat a couple of very good colts, he did it like a colt who learned a lot in one race. Mm-hmm. That gave me the goosebumps. I wasn't really sure which one it would be. It could have been Barnes. It might have been Bullard. But it turns out one really gave me the goosebumps, and that was Barnes. And all the hype that had been afforded this horse prior to his first start came to fruition. I am a believer. This colt.
Fourth, 3 off the fourth.
Oh. And let's go to that race now here. The button got stuck on me. Let's check out the Goosebump Award. We'll go smoothly here. It goes to the San Vicente winner, Barnes.
Fourth, 3 off the pace. Another 2 back to Smooth Cruising, who's guided to the far outside. Less than a half mile to go, and it's McKenzie Street. The pace is moderate. 3/4 of a length to Barnes, sticking right with him in second. Romanesque is very eager in third. Another neck back to Bullard, called on now outside of him. And Smooth Cruising 3 wide, coming to the quarter pole. Barnes makes his move. And there goes Barnes, opening up a length and a half quickly on McKenzie Street in second. Bullard set down. He's under serious pressure as Barnes turns for home. Fuller run in the San Vicente, opening up by 3. Romanesque rallying in between horses. Bullard on the outside, but it's a 1-horse race coming to the 16th pole. Barnes is a beast. Another San Vicente for Bob Baffert. This time it's Barnes, handridden to a 6-length victory. Romanesque second. Bullard finished.
Now, there's no doubt about this win over 7/8 of a mile. 2 turns will be the question next, I'm sure, for Barnes. But look, all the hype that went behind him. He was in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager before he even had a name. He was the unnamed in the Mischief Colt in the Kentucky Derby Future Wager back at the beginning of November. So he has come a long way from being unnamed to one of the top contenders, obviously, for this year's Triple Crown, Jeff. My one question with Barnes is how far he will go. His third dam was one of the best 7-furlong sprinters we've ever seen in Dream Supreme. This is a one-turn pedigree on the dam side. We'll see. He looks like a horse who will go longer. Bob certainly is not worried about that in the past. I remember being a little worried about American Pharoah because he had the Yankee Gentleman on the damn side of the pedigree, and I thought he might not go that far either. He certainly did, all the way to the Triple Crown. But if we're going to make any final judgments on how big of a Triple Crown contender Barnes will be, it'll come after his next start when he gets around 2 turns, right?
I would say so. But this colt's got a great mind. I mean, he switches off, at least he did in this race, just relaxed beautifully, 45 flat to the half, but just under cruise control, without pulling, without getting rank, without trying to do anything other than what the jockey was asking him to do. And then when he was asked to accelerate into the stretch, he gave that quick acceleration, that turn of foot that you like to see the good horses have. Drew off and won by 5.5 lengths, and beat a very good colt. Colt that was a future star for us, Romanesque. And in looking at Romanesque, that's a colt that could go somewhere and win an Arkansas Derby or something like that. I don't think Bob's going to ship Barnes anywhere. There's no reason to. The only way you'd have to ship him is if one of the races that he intends to run out here in California, whether it's the Bob Lewis or something else, or the San Antonio Derby, it doesn't fill or something like that. But other than that, he's going to stay put. And Bob's got plenty of other horses he can ship. But I was just blown away. That's why he won the Goosebump Award, because not only did he beat a good field, he ran fast, buyers in the mid-90s, put a forward move off that. And he did it like a pro. He did it like a colt who's run a lot of times, and sometimes you don't get that with just second-time starters. So, and he also changed leads beautifully, which he did not do in his first start. And he didn't drift out to the middle of the track, which he did in his first start. So I right now, to me, Jeremy, I think based on his tactical speed, his connections, obviously, to me, he's my number 1 colt in the class as of right now. You're right. He's going to have to prove himself around 2 turns and being by Into Mischief. Some of them have distance limitations, but Into Mischief has already got a Kentucky Derby winner. So I think this colt can, as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll go on and it'll take something extraordinary to beat him.
Yeah, that was authentic. The Derby winner by Into Mischief, trained by Baffert. And again, the same kind of things you might have been thinking about authentic this time. I remember, I believe it was the Sham that he won, was the mile race. It was just like, is he going to go any farther? So Baffert has a way of getting these horses. Silver Charm, there was no guarantee 2 to 3 that Silver Charm was going to be a distance horse, and he turned out to be as good a classic runner as Baffert has ever had. So this one certainly could. And as you mentioned, maybe he just stays home. You've got the Bob Lewis, you got the San Felipe, Santa Anita Derby, so he's got some options to probably pick 2 more races, I would think. One prep for the Santa Anita Derby and then into the Santa Anita Derby. What will he do with Romanesque? Probably separate that group. Now let's talk about the 3rd place finisher in this race, the San Vicente. It was Bullard, very, very high on this horse. I was going into the race. But I will say this, in our Friday handicapping podcast, we showed the final workout for Bullard, and he just kind of stayed with his workmate, and he didn't put him away quite the way that I wanted. And I'll admit, in the pre-race lead-up, I hadn't given that workout a whole lot of look until we got to our Friday handicapping podcast, and I had this little pit in my stomach like, I didn't really like that. And he kind of ran like that workout where he loomed up and then just didn't have anything here. I'm wondering one of 2 things. Either he was a win early horse who's kind of shown what he's shown and others will catch up to him. Of course, he was 2 for 2. Or the fact that the Bob Hope winner at Del Mar also broke his maiden at Del Mar, and the work at Santa Anita wasn't that great, and the race at Santa Anita wasn't that great. Maybe he's a horse for course for Del Mar, or a horse who doesn't really run his best at Santa Anita. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael McCarthy, who he's going to have to do something with his other colt journalism to separate these, I'm kind of thinking Bullard might be a good candidate to go on the road. And then you're going to find out. He either is or he isn't. He goes on the road one time, and if he runs well, then he's a Triple Crown threat kind of horse. And if he doesn't, then you know he was a win early type, and the others have caught up to him. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the Gotham.
That would be a good place for him, I think. My issue is one other possibility that I'll throw in here, and that is maybe he's not as good as his Del Mar races look. Now, both races, the race shape of the race, it was fast early, not particularly strong late. And in his last race, prior to this, in the Bob Hope, he took forever to change leads, but he did change leads. This time, he never changed leads. And when you're making your 3rd start of your career and you're regressing with regards to your the way you move and your athleticism, there may be some issues there that we didn't really recognize, and maybe Michael McCarthy didn't either. Numbers wise, both of his wins were good. They didn't crack the 90 Beyer number yet, and he did have pace to run at in both. So it's possible that maybe he isn't as good as I thought he was going to be. And sometimes you get a little snobbish, when you look at the pedigree and you see Gun Runner and you figure, okay, well, he'll run on, but sometimes they don't. And the funny thing is that Bullard was the favorite forever until the last click, and then all of a sudden all the money came in on Barnes. There's an expression, they knew. Well, I don't know who they is, but whoever they is, they knew more than I did. I can tell you that, because I thought Barnes, given the setup, when he started to make his move into the far turn, I thought he would get to the leaders, and instead of not even getting to the winner, he couldn't even get to the runner-up. So, I mean, I'm as high and as impressed as I was with Barnes. I was very much disappointed with Bullard, and he is now, until such time as he does something that I haven't seen him do yet, he's off my list. I can't excuse it. I know that one race doesn't make a career, and the old saying that goes, but I'm sorry. I'm going to react to what I just saw, and he's going to have to change my mind next time.
Despite all that, that's not the most disappointing 3-year-old performance of the week. We're
right
talking about that
That's true.
just a moment. As we
break
go
your
to
heart this time of the year.
We go to topic number 2 on the big board, our Triple Crown tracker. We had races, like we said, 5 3-year-old stakes races across the country last week. We're not going to look at the Turfway preview in this segment, but we are going to look at the 3 races that we saw from Gulfstream, the Mucho Macho Man Stakes, the Jerome at Aqueduct, and also the Smarty Jones at Oaklawn. So let's start things off talking about Guns Loaded, winner of the Mucho Macho Man Stakes down at Gulfstream Park. Jeff, we'll let the fans take a look at that race and Pete Aiello's call of the 1-turn mile, and then we'll come back and get your thoughts on not only Guns Loaded, but what might be in South Florida for him to take on next.
But it's a quarter of a mile from home. Guns Loaded the target. It's Guns Loaded through 3/4 in 1:12 3. He's off the turn on top with a 3-length strong lead. Second is Treaty of Rome as the leader cut the corner beautifully. They're 1/8 of a mile from home. Guns Loaded. He's still on the lead, and he leads by 2.5. Second is Treaty of Rome. He's trying to gain late ground. Final 16th of a mile. Here comes Treaty of Rome. Guns Loaded needs the wire. Treaty of Rome lifting. Guns Loaded hung on.
He hung on, exactly, and there weren't very strong splits in that race either. Jeff, if he's a legitimate 1/16, 1/8, 1.25 stakes horse as the trail goes around 2 turns from here out at Gulfstream Park, I wanted to see more over that last quarter mile from him.
Well, given the trip, I mean, he was handed an easy lead when the other speed, Macho Music, didn't break. So he's cruising on the front end, first quarter in 24-2, no pressure at all. Those are pristine conditions for any horse, and Guns Loaded took advantage of that to make the running. And under those circumstances, he's not supposed to be life and death at the end with the last quarter in 26. He's supposed to draw off and win impressively, and then you can say, well, yeah, he got an easy trip and this and that. Right. So we'll have to, he'll have to show us next time. But he didn't even do that. He barely hung on and won by a neck. And I'm saying, if that's all he can do, given that kind of trip, I'm sorry. Sometimes when you win, and I've had horses win, and I've entered the winner's circle, and I was supposed to be happy, but I'm saying to myself, that's nice. You win a race, he'll never win another one. And I think that's what I would be thinking if I own Guns Loaded. I mean, yeah, we won the race, but how it can't make anything good about this. And so now we'll see where they go next, but I'll be against him next time. I mean, unless he just can't lose. But I mean, I don't think that race elevated him in my evaluation in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he looked like the horse to beat around 1 turn in that race for Jose D'Angelo, another gun runner. So good effort there. While the gun runner was beaten at Santa Anita, he got the 1-turn mile. But again, the Pletcher doesn't have anything really big yet, but the Chad Brown stronger horses, the Breeders' Cup alumni, those kind of horses are going to be coming up on the trail, and it's going to be a much stronger cast than what we saw in this one. There were 2 Chad Browns in the Mucho Macho Man. The runner-up in here, Treaty of Rome, the third place finisher, Septarian. Septarian was a private purchase from the Mid-Atlantic and came south for Resolute Racing. He ran okay coming out of those races at Charlestown and Laurel, but nothing special. Treaty of Rome, the runner-up, was actually pretty decent in here. He's by Uncle Mo, but a lot of turfy damside pedigree. He's actually the best prospect, I think, of the Florida Derby series out of this race. Treaty of Rome for Chad Brown, decent second place finisher. Tabor Magner, again, a lot of good pedigree there. Dam side turf route. That's a good combination by Uncle Mo. So if I'm going to keep my eye on one horse out of the Mucho Macho Man stakes, it'll be Treaty of Rome. But I can feel pretty confident saying that's not the best of the Chad Browns that we're going to see on the trail this year. So it's just going to get tougher. The Mucho Macho Man hasn't had a big impact on the Florida Derby or the Triple Crown series. It's just kind of like locals and a couple up-and-comer types coming south for the first time. It will get much tougher on the Florida Derby trail. Next up, the Holy Bull Stakes is supposed to be the next start, though. In the post-race interview, Jose D'Angelo, the trainer, told the track communications team that Guns Loaded would look to the Holy Bull next. So we will see. Again, a lot of these horses we're going to talk about this week is like, here's what happened this weekend, but the next start's really going to tell us the most. And this is a starting off point for him. We'll know Guns Loaded. He's either going to really improve and show something around 2 turns that backs up what his form has been to this date, or he's going to continue to kind of not be able to finish the deal like he did in this one. We're going to know everything we need to know about him in one more start, I believe.
I think you're right. And, you have to, if you're the Connections trainer owner, you got to be optimistic, but I don't have that burden. I can tell it like it is, and if I'm wrong, I hope I am for their sake. But I just evaluate what I see. So
yeah, I remember 1999 Kentucky Derby. The horses hit the wire, and Charismatic held on by a neck, and I walked off the perch at Churchill Downs. The old press box used to be up on the 5th floor, I believe it was, and walked off the balcony and told people around me he'll never win another race. He won Preakness 2 weeks later. So you never know. I mean, you don't want to be too declarative, but these horses, as Nick Zeta, or I believe it was Lucas who said, you guys have the questions talking to the press. The horses have the answers. So
yeah, well,
they will tell us next.
Also, I remember that because he had run for $62,500 in the winter, and Wayne said, well, we were taking a shot. We knew we could get away with it, and we wanted to get a confidence win for him. So he didn't surprise us. Obviously, we didn't think he'd get claimed. And but it was all predetermined to give him that confidence-building win. And then Bob Lewis told me, he says, not really. Wayne told me the horse couldn't run. But, it's easy to look back and change your story if you want to.
That's right. Yeah. So revisionist history. That's the way we play it in racing a lot of the times. Let's stay on our Triple Crown tracker and go to New York for Saturday's Jerome Stakes. 150 grand are here. The 1-turn mile we talked about for much of this race's history. It was later in the season. Really hasn't been a Triple Crown prep until the last decade or so, and hasn't had a lot of impact on the Triple Crown series itself. A lot of times these horses are going to wind up shorter in their careers. Milers, we've seen some pretty decent milers come around over the years from this race, but not necessarily horses for the Triple Crown. That could be the story again with Cyclone State, winner in this race by McKenzie. He was fast. He looked good in doing so. Let's go back and take a look at the Jerome over the weekend, and then we'll talk about Cyclone State and any of the horses coming out of this race moving forward.
With a quarter mile left to go, it is Cyclone State who's well clear and trying to run away with the Jerome right now. Cyclone State is now 8 lengths in front and pouring it on. Omaha on the grandstand side. ICANN is trying to run on Studley Do Right inside the final furlong. Cyclone State is all alone. It's Cyclone State for a final 16th. Cyclone State's almost there. Cyclone State will win the Jerome. Cyclone State wins it. Omaha up for second. ICANN is in a photo with Studley Do Right in 1 minute 40.82 seconds.
Wire to wire, just like he did in his previous 2 starts. So that's 3 straight races where Cyclone State hasn't seen the tail of another horse going on the lead under Rivera there for trainer Chad Summers. And afterwards, he told Maggie Wolfendale that this horse may go to the Withers next at 1 1/8 or the trip to Saudi Arabia for the Saudi Derby, a 1-turn race, which might be a lucrative attempt for a horse like this, who to me looks like he's got some distance limitations. I don't think he's going to go all that far. He's out of a Dominus mare. Dominus, a very good turf miler. Just the way he runs, I don't think he's good enough to run great horses into the ground with that kind of style. If you're going to be a dead set front runner, you better be winning colors to win some of these big races that are up to come. So for me, Cyclone State, I wouldn't mind seeing Chad Summers. He's had success in Dubai in the past, a guy who's not afraid to take horses overseas like that. I would say Saudi Derby is probably where he's headed, Cyclone State.
That's where I'd go with him for sure. I mean, you can run 4th or 5th and make more money than you'd make if you stay here, and it might be easier there. I would go there and take where maybe the horses there can't keep up with you early. And it does look like Cyclone State is a need the lead type. I mean, he's never run well without the lead. Now he's won his last, couple 3, and that's good. But he's also been fortunate enough to be quick enough to make the lead and then have little chasing him home. I mean, he went 1 mile and 40-4 here. First half was 47-1, and the second half was 53. They were just staggering, but no one was running. And good for him. He utilizes the one thing that he does have, and that's early speed. I remember we handicapped this race last Friday, and on First Call, and we both, at least I picked Studley Do Right and did spend the rest of the next 2 or 3 minutes knocking him. So I knew I had the wrong
it was a default pick. And then McAfee ended up scratching in this race. That's the half brother by computing, the half brother to Torpedo Anna. He ended up scratching. So the race lost a little bit of its luster there, just, in that pedigree intrigue there with McAfee out of it. So, yeah, we both kind of defaulted to Studley Do Right because he had won the National. He'd run well in the tree. He won the Tremont. He was okay in the Remsen. We thought, let's, see. This certainly doesn't flatter the Remsen form. Studley Do Right did not run on in this race. He did run 7 times as a juvenile and I think 5 or 6 road trips from Maryland up the run in New York. He's known the van ride up there now. So maybe he's just a little over the top, or maybe the Remsen wasn't that strong. He was 4th in the Remsen and was no better than that in this particular spot in the Jerome. So I don't think this is a Jerome that's going to throw, a big effort for us moving forward, for some of these horses, because next up is 1 mile and 1/8 in the Withers. So it's a clunky. I don't like this schedule in New York at all. The 1 mile and 1/8 Withers comes up before the mile Gotham. And the Jerome being a mile, nobody wants to go mile and 1/8, mile and 1/8 to the Wood. So you're kind of like jumping in at different points in the series. And if you're running the Withers at 1 mile and 1/8, you don't want to come back into Gotham. So you got to wait all the way to the Wood. There's really not a good path. If you're going to go through the Jerome or the Withers in New York, there's really not a good path to the Triple Crown. You're better off going just Gotham, 1 local prep, and then Wood, and then to the off a 2 prep session. It's not a very well. I don't think. I think that Withers in the middle at 1 mile and 1/8 is just a bad placement of race for a horse to develop through New York. Plus, it's winter in New York, right? The best horses there are mostly snowbirds who are in South Florida right now.
Well, I think they might be looking at a different clientele for the later races, because these horses are there and they're just there, and Jimbo race, but no one really expects anything from the Jerome winner. So maybe we'll get some new fresh faces later on. But that's one of the reasons why I think Cyclone State should get it while he can, because he's not beating a lot here. And maybe he won't have to face much in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. But this group is thoroughly uninspiring as far as I'm concerned. And Cyclone State had won his last 2, but I didn't look at him as anything, certainly not a Derby horse. So we shall see what transpires, but good for him.
Might be a Saudi Derby winner.
Well, why not? I mean, I don't know what they've got over there. So.
Mind Your Biscuits was the Chad Summers horse who had success over in Dubai.
That's true.
He's had some good horses in the past who have been able to travel and run well. Now, earlier we talked about how disappointed we were in Bullard's effort in the San Vicente. As we go to the Smarty Jones next at Oaklawn on Saturday as part of our Triple Crown tracker, Hot Property ran even worse than, if we were disappointed in Bullard, Hot Property, the debut winner at Fairgrounds, who I thought really had some potential about him, 84 buyer in that debut at Fairgrounds for Brad Cox, fantastic pedigree by Medaglia d'Oro out of the major route stakes winner, Milwaukee Appeal. There was just a lot to like about this horse, looking like a Triple Crown prospect. Then the Smarty Jones happened. He was dead on the board, second choice, almost third choice in the field. And when we pick up the running here, Jeff, he's in the back. He's not getting much action, and Matt Dinnerman's calling him out early in the race, hoping that maybe he'll get involved.
He broke his maiden towards the front of the field at the fairgrounds a few weeks ago, and today he's at the back of the pack, but he's only 2.5 lengths behind. A compact group hits the 4-turn run. Kale's Angel with the ears pricked up. Cole Battle to the outside. Both runners moving well to this point, and they lead by 1.5 lengths. Mo Quality within range, still on the outside, has lost the most ground, is third. Bontemps between horses. Hot Gunner on the fence, and Hot Property. Flavian Pratt asking him for more, but he's not responding and is still at the back, and it looks like he's out of it. Top of the stretch. Cole Battle with the lead from Kale's Angel on the inside, still right there with him. Mo Quality has asked for his best on the far outside. Cole Battle with the lead as they hit the furlong pole and starts to inch away. Kale's Angel second. Mo Quality third with a 16 to go. Cole Battle is opening up 3-4 lengths coming to the finish, and for the Lonnie Briley barn, it's the pride of Remington Park. It's Cole Battle and the Smarty Jones. Second, Mo Quality.
Sharp effort there. And from a visual standpoint, he looked as good coming home as anything we saw last weekend. That was an impressive looking victory then there from a horse who's now won 3 straight stakes races. He won the Delta Downs race to Jean Lafitte. He won the 2-turn Springboard Mile at Remington, and now the 2-turn mile and a 16th. Middle distance at Oaklawn in the Smarty Jones. Cole Battle, thumbs up. Hot Property, thumbs way down. 2 thumbs down for him.
I would think that at about the 5/16th pole, Flavian Pratt was thinking to himself, I came here to ride this.
Yeah.
Because he gave up some nice mounts at Santa Anita to run in this race, and he didn't run at all. And maybe that first race was a phony race. I mean, he won nicely, but he also went to half that day in 49 and change and 3/4 and 14 and 3. So that race made him look better than he really was, obviously. As for Cole Battle, I was visually very impressed with him. I mean, moves well. He's got a good acceleration. The race was kind of slow, but he did finish out well in 6 1/5, so that he did that right. So that was good. I mean, I don't know if something better will eventually show up there. I mean, anytime this is not Bob Baffert's group that he's going to have to face later on, but he did what he had to do, drew off with authority, and I feel it's fine. I don't know how ambitious they're going to get right now, but right now they've got a nice colt that if they manage him correctly and do right by him, and then he'll make his mark this spring. But man, how deflating can you possibly be with a horse like Hot Property? You break your maiden first time out. You look like you can be any climb. You're running in the stakes. You're getting Pratt flying across country to ride him, and this is what you get, man.
Yeah,
tough game, tough game.
Yeah, I don't know. They regroup, go back, maybe look for an allowance race at fairgrounds. Every once in a while in the spring, they'll get an allowance race to fill at fairgrounds for these horses because the meet starts, earlier back at Thanksgiving, and they get enough horses through their conditions that sometimes they can fill an allowance on the dirt at fairgrounds. On the undercard, sometimes you'll see that an allowance race on the undercard of Lecompte, Risen Star Day, something like that. Maybe he can come back in something like that. But boy, really disappointing effort from Hot Property. As for Cole Battle, a nice story. The trainer Lonnie Briley, veteran Louisiana trainer, he's been going at it for 35 years. This is by far the best win he's ever had in his career, winning a 250 grander like that. Just one of those good old boys that you can kind of root for, So a little bit off Broadway for sure, but Cole Battle puts his name in the spotlight for at least Smarty Jones Day at Oaklawn. But like you mentioned, it's about to get a lot tougher in Hot Springs with the competition that's coming in there. But nice win for the Springboard Mile winner, Cole Battle. We'll see what he can do. He's done well at 7.5. He's done well at a mile. Now at a mile and a 16th. Next up at Oaklawn, they're going to go a mile and a 16th. And the next 2 legs, you've got the Southwest and the Rebel still at that mile and a 16th distance. So then we go to the mile and an 1/8 in the Arkansas Derby.
One other thing, Jeremy, is if you draw a line through these 2 grass races, Cole Battle's undefeated in 4 starts. So, I mean, maybe he's not beating anybody, but he's beating whatever's been led up to him, as long as they stay on the dirt. So he'll get tested eventually.
Easy one to root for. That's the kind we like. It took 4 days in 2025 for Bob Baffert to reestablish himself in the Kentucky Derby dominance, right? I mean, running 1-2 in the San Vicente Stakes. So getting a little Lonnie Briley love in there certainly is the kind of thing I think we need to fill out a Triple Crown trail. So let's see how he turns out down the road coal battle. Okay, so now we've wrapped up our stakes races from around the country in the Triple Crown tracker. Time to hit our third topic, and we switch divisions in here to maybe a new leader in the filly and mare sprint division. Dare we say distaff division in here. Hail to the maybe leader. Her name is Ricci. She's a South American import, and she won the Las Flores in style at Santa Anita.
Third, just 2.5 or so off the lead. Irish Wahini broke well, but is at the back of the field with Wine on Tap. 5 lengths covers them, heading to the half-mile pole. And it's Don't Bring Crazy the target. 1.5 lengths in front. Pleasant in second. Ricci at the rail, a close third still. Only 2 off them into the far turn while hugging the fence. Another 2 back to Wine on Tap, and 2 more to Irish Wahini. They have less than 3/8 of a mile to go. Don't Bring Crazy, Pleasant. Ricci needs racing room just behind them, trying to find a spot to slip through, and does. And Ricci will cut the corner at the top of the stretch as Pleasant takes the lead. Pleasant and Ricci. Ricci is loaded, and Ricci takes over, opens up on Pleasant at the furlong pole. Don't Bring Crazy in third, followed by Irish Wahini. A 16th to go. Ricci by 2. Pleasant trying her best, but she is second best to Ricci, who blazes.
And that's Bob Baffert again with an incredible Saturday that he had at Santa Anita. I think he won 4, and Juan Hernandez picked up 5 wins on that card. Jeff, what did we make of Ricci? Where's the sky point for this one?
Well, in doing the morning line for this race, and you had 2 Bob Baffert horses, I actually thought going in that that race was a lot closer than the tote board eventually showed.
Yeah,
I mean, they've got Pleasanton at 20 cents in the dollar, Ricci at 3-1. I made her 8-5, and doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. My job was to predict the betting, not picking winners. But I had watched these 2 horses train, and I just looked at Ricci and said, "Wow!" I mean, she really was very impressive. Not that Pleasant wasn't, but she looked more cranked up to me. So, and the thing about Ricci is, and here's the scary part. Again, not knowing who she was beating down there, but she won a Group 1 race down at Chile, her native Chile, at 1.25 miles. And Baffert has kept on saying that she's better long than short. And if you look at her form, you'd say, yeah, she probably was. She just won this race. She ran 9 flat, running 6 furlongs, sprinting, beating the filly who was beaten barely a length in the Breeders' Cup filly in their sprint. This was her game. This was her race to win.
Right.
And they were just kind of giving Ricci a run, hadn't been out since June. And for Ricci to run to her works, again, not surprising to me if you watched her, and just beat Pleasant. And I don't know how good or how dominant she's going to be at what should be a better distance for her. It doesn't have to be 1.25 miles, but a mile and a 16th, mile and 1/8. She'll go back now and run the Beholder Mile. And based on the way she ran here and the way she had trained, I'm not sure that I wouldn't pick her against Torpedo Anna when they run together eventually, if they were both in their top form. This mare is a 5-year-old mare, but she was bred on Southern Hemisphere time, which means she was foaled in August. She's really 4.5, and she's by Practical Joke. It's not like we have to worry about some funny Chilean pedigree we can't relate to, So, I mean, why? And out of a Scat Daddy mare. So, I mean, she might as well be American bred, right? But I was just blown away with her. I mean, only reason why she didn't get the Goosebump award this week is because we had another one of Baffert's that, Barnes that took the spotlight away. But this was a terrific mare. And I don't envision her losing anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
The Apple Blossom in the spring at Oaklawn, 1 mile and a 16th. Maybe she's headed for a road trip and a stretch out there because you get a grade 1 race at a very intermediate distance, in something like that. But that's all the way to April. She's probably definitely going to have a start in between. Plenty of races at Santa Anita for her locally before maybe having to step out and see what she can do. But Jeff says she might be as good as Torpedo Anna. That tells you something what he thinks about her in the distaff division. Highly impressive. Let's go to our fourth topic this week on the big board as we stay with the fillies. This is a 3-year-old filly named Nitrogen, one to keep an eye on after she exploded the win late this past weekend in the Ginger Brew Stakes. Keep an eye at the back of the pack, the number 10 horse in the Maroon Silks. She's only going to get one call, and it's a winning one at the wire.
Widest of all as they straighten for the drive. 3/4, 111 and 3. They're in the lane. The leader is Corretto. Love Cervete dives toward the rail. Cervete's on the outside, farther out in winning streak. They come past the 16th pole. Love Cervete at the rail. Cervete's on the outside. Nitrogen between. Here's the wire. Nitrogen.
Jeff, that's what we call the turn of foot that you're looking for in a turf race, especially a middle distance turf race. She had run well, ran third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. The big winner that day, Lake Victoria, one of the best fillies we've seen come over in the 2-year-old ranks from overseas. She's not going to have to worry about Lake Victoria until Breeders' Cup Filly Mare turf. Heaven forbid they both get there until the end of the year. We're not going to see Lake Victoria back in the States. But Nitrogen, she looks like she's got herself the 3-year-old filly division to herself, I think, if she keeps running like that.
She, believe it or not, this was a stakes race, as you know. She was a maiden going into this race. Now, a little bit more accomplished than your normal maiden.
Right.
Beaten the neck in her debut, beaten less than a length in the Group 1 Natama, beaten just 2 lengths in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf, coming against the grain in that race, finding her best straight light, gobbling up the ground, just running out of room. And now in this race, same thing happened where she was somewhat in the mid-pack, and again, the race shape favored the horses close up. First half of the mile, this race 47 and 2. Second half 47 flat. Last 8th and 11 and 2, and she's blowing by everybody. And being by Medalla d'Oro and out of a mare by Uncle Mo, I wonder if the connections here, Mark Casse would consider the dirt somewhere down the road. I mean, I'm always, begging these turf horses to run in the dirt. Most of the time they don't they don't run as well. So it's easy to say. But if I had her and if she trained well on the dirt, I mean, again, Medalla d'Oro can get you anything. But if you had to say one way or the other, he probably is more accomplished for his dirt horses than his turf. And I don't know if she was put on the grass because they trained her on the dirt and she didn't like it, or whether that's the way they came up and once they ran her on the grass, they figured to stick with it. But I mean, and she's a big, strong, strapping, good-looking filly, at least on video. I would say, and based on her, the way she runs, I mean, distance would never be a problem. I just wonder whether or not somewhere down the road she'll get a chance, and maybe just the one chance. And then if that doesn't work, go back to grass if you have to. But if it does work, now you've got yourself maybe an Oaks filly. So, but I was impressed. And just because the margin of victory was so short and they all kind of, finished in a heap, that happens in grass racing. I mean, that doesn't, I mean, the races usually start at the 16th pole and then they finish at the wire. And she was certainly the quickest of the quick there. So I like her. Nitrogen, for me, a future star, if not a present one already.
Yeah, by Medalla d'Oro. He's had so many great fillies over the years. I mean, he's been a sire of some of the greatest, Rachel Alexandra et al. Nitrogen for trainer Mark Casse. Maybe we see her on the Florida Oaks path. Remember, at Tampa, they run the Florida Oaks on the turf, so she's going to stay on the turf. And Casse really supports those Tampa Bay Downs races this time of year, especially with his turf fillies. I wouldn't be surprised if she's headed that way. If she stays on the grass, you got the Appalachian, you got the Edgewood, those kind of races in Kentucky in the spring. If they want to try to go down the Oaks path, they're going to have a chance maybe to try something on dirt, maybe see her in the Fairgrounds Oaks. Casse runs a lot of horses at Fairgrounds and stakes races, if she's going to get a chance to cross over. But she's an exciting prospect there. That's our fourth topic this week. We've got Nitrogen exploding to win the Ginger Brew Stakes. Let's go to our fifth and final topic this week on It's Official. We finish up, as we always do, with our Stars of Tomorrow segment. And as we talk about this Star of Tomorrow for this week, Jeff, Rodriguez is the name, and we already got a little bit of sense of how good he might be because Romanesque came back and ran really well. Romanesque, the horse who beat Rodriguez in the debut, he came back and ran really well to run second in the San Vicente Stakes. Romanesque, Rodriguez coming out of that common debut race. Rodriguez was awfully good in his second start. Let's take a look.
They turn for home. Rodriguez in command. 3-length lead at the top of the stretch. Now it's 4 at the furlong pole. Good battle between Baeza and Rank, head and head, second and third. Cornhusker Chris is in fourth. They pass the 16th pole, and Rodriguez too classy. Rodriguez striding out beautifully, in fact, will romp home. Wins by 7 lengths. Baeza completes the exacta in front of Rank.
Legit fractions, 2-turn race. This was as good a maiden race as you can ask for this time of year. Another Bob Baffert trainee, Rodriguez. A lot of times we get enamored with horses who win on the undercard of big stakes days. The San Vicente certainly took the top with Bullard, but had not it been for a dominant performance by Bullard in the San Vicente, people would be talking about Rodriguez coming out of this card. This was a really impressive effort.
Well, you know, the most impressive thing that he did or has done, believe it or not, wasn't this maiden win, even though it was just jaw-dropping. Again, a runner-up in the voting for Goosebump of the Week award. You know what the most impressive thing he's done, believe it or not, was his breeze with Barnes not too long ago, a couple weeks back. When if I showed you these two horses breezing and I didn't tell you which one was which, you might have thought that maybe Rodriguez was Barnes and vice versa. That's how good he looked.
Yeah.
And he comes back here and he's 50 cents on the dollar, which was an overlay, quite frankly, from the rail in a race with no speed on a speed favoring track with a colt that breathes evenly with Barnes against a bunch of maidens. Only 1-2. I've seen worse 1-2s, I'm telling you, And he won this race for fun, but he was never off the bridle. I mean, he was into the bridle every step of the way, never really asked at all. Set legitimate fractions, 3/4 and 10 and 1. Finished out a mile and 35 and 4, which is fast on this track, especially over distance to ground, and did it like a colt that I would not want to run against. Yeah. I don't want to see him if I don't want to meet him. I want to find out where he's going. I'm going the other way because he's probably going to ship. And if he does, whether it's Arkansas or somewhere else, I don't want to mess with him. I'm telling you right now. So Rodriguez, very, very impressive from the first crop of authentic. And not only that, but he's a May 20th foal. He hasn't grown up yet. He's still a baby. So, wow. I can't even imagine what he might be like in a couple, 3 months.
Well, that's 3 Bafferts that we talked about on the show. The 1-2 finishers in the San Vicente. Now we talk about Rodriguez in here. We're not even mentioning Baffert ran 1-2-4 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I mean, that's 6 legit names because the 4th place finisher from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile has already come back to run second in the Low South Futurity. So that's 6 right there that are credentialed either in major stakes or a 2-turn maiden winner like we just saw there with Rodriguez. And it's only January the 7th as we record our podcast here. Baffert's got 6 and counting right now.
And believe me, he's got more. He's got more that no one's ever heard of yet. You know? So I'm telling you, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the tip of the iceberg, but it's the iceberg. And I'm telling you, these colts are good, and he's just going to have to break them up. He doesn't want to. I mean, he may not be able to do that, but he might have to go. I don't know. He likes Arkansas. We know that they're going to get some of these. I can guarantee you that.
Baffert being banned from the last couple Triple Crown or from last trio of Kentucky Derbies, you almost wonder if there's a little competitiveness inside, a little vindictiveness that he is going to lay everything out this year. I mean, everything. He's had great groups in January before, so this isn't completely special. We've seen it over the years, and some don't get there. The McKenzies and horses who look like they're major horses, Mastery, McKenzie, and don't get to the Triple Crown, but we're like as dominant as some of his horses look now in January of their respective years. But I just get the feeling. I think Barnes going back to run at Churchill, his $3.2 million horse, I think that was a statement of that's the first horse I'm going to bring back there during the fall after his ban was lifted. I just think he is going to push every chip to the middle of the table and try to win this thing this year. He's trying to win it every year, but I think this is a little chip on the shoulder kind of season.
If he could have 10 of the 20 horses in the field, he would.
Yeah.
Now, you point out it's not a question so much of the ability, it's a question of staying healthy. Nisos
Right.
last year, for example, I'm convinced he was the best 3-year-old in the country and never got that chance. But no, what you're envisioning is going to happen if the racing gods will allow it, because he's not backing off. The more the merrier. Not only will he have 10, but that means there's only 10 to beat, right? So take away from the opposition, and maybe you can do it. But,
I'm going to set the over and under. This is something I probably should say for Countdown to the Crown, because in my 3 things, you won't hear anything else, usually some opinions at the top. But I'm going to set the over and under on Baffert starters in this year's Derby at 4.5.
I would take
it could
the
be
over.
a Nick Zito-like year where he got 5 in. Pletcher's had 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it at 4.5 this year. If he can, like you said, if he can keep him healthy. But I think that's a legit number. When you get 5 in the Derby, it's like a historical accomplishment, but it's been done before. So that's not a ridiculous number, saying 5.
As you pointed out, he had the individual horse favorite in the future book for the Kentucky Derby, who not only had not run, didn't even have a name.
Barnes, yeah.
Barnes. So, I think you're right. And by the way, it's not that difficult if you're going to spend $3 million to go to a 2-year-old in training sale and watch them breeze, and half the work's already been done. And it's pretty easy. Anybody who knows what they're looking at can go out and pick the fastest horse and say, I'm going to buy him. But when you do this when they're yearlings, which many of these were purchased as yearlings, when all you have is a confirmation and a pedigree, and you're still spending all this crazy money, and you come up with something like this, that's a little different. That's why I have just as much admiration for Baffert and his team for buying the right horses as I do once they get him in training. That the accumulation of this talent pool isn't handed to him, and he has quite a few of them, but he doesn't have all of them. But he seems like he picks out the right ones. So that's why I'm impressed. And like I say, he's going to try to buy the race right before the start by having everybody in there if he can, and he might have 10 horses. But I'll take the over on the 4.5.
All right, over on the 4.5. Mark it down on January 7th for Jeff. Let's wrap up our topics on It's Official this week. Our Goosebump Award went to the San Vicente winner, Barnes. Triple Crown Tracker took you to the Jerome Stakes. We also looked at the Smarty Jones, and the Mucho Macho Man won by Guns Loaded in that one. Hail to the maybe leader. We talked about a filly named Ricci, who may be one to watch in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Or dare we say Distaff Division, the South American import, won her second American start when she won the Las Flores and looks like a future star. Nitrogen could be a future star in the 3-year-old filly Turf Division, or maybe she'll try the dirt by Medaglia d'Oro. She was an impressive winner in the Ginger Brew Stakes coming out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf for trainer Mark Cassie. And our star of tomorrow, Rodriguez, winning on the San Vicente undercard. He won around 2 turns. He looks like he has a big future, and he's one of, I don't know how many we're talking about potentially for Bob Baffert. Those 5 topics are now official because Jeff Siegel and I said so. That's how we play the game, and we'll do it again next week where we rack up 5 more topics for you. It's a quiet week in horse racing in terms of the major elite stakes races, so we'll be challenged to get our 5 topics next week. Maybe we'll get a little bit off the racetrack and get some topical conversation going as well, but certainly we're going to gamble this weekend and do some handicapping. So Jeff and I will be back on Friday for our First Call podcast when we handicap our weekend stakes races. Jeff, enjoy the week. Our first full week of the new year here rolling in, and this is our first edition of It's Official for the 2025 season. Looking forward to rolling on throughout the course of the year.
10 races on Friday at Santa Anita, 10 races on Friday, 11 on Saturday.
Nice.
So they're filling the races out here. Good racing. Yeah. Handle is up, and I'll have all my analysis and wagering strategies on the website for Santa Anita. So check it out. It's free, as always.
All right. Jeff and I will be back on Friday on behalf of everyone with First and Express Bet. My partner, Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk. Have a great week. We'll talk to you Friday.